When men caress women, the question, how can I make her more excited, naturally comes to mind. Some men want to make their partners as happy as possible, while others think that just leading them to a certain extent is enough. However, this difference in assertiveness and passivity can greatly affect the results that the two men achieve. Statistically, women only feel satisfied in a relationship about 42% of the time. On the other hand, I've seen statistics that say men feel satisfied 92% of the time. This difference means that 1 in 2 women is likely to not reach a satisfying climax during sexual intercourse. Therefore, foreplay before or during a relationship is extremely important for women. While penetration and climax are important, the process of gradually building up a woman's arousal through foreplay plays a very significant role. Looking at this more closely, men who actively engage in foreplay can give women the feeling that this person truly cares about and loves me. This is because it conveys not just technical skill, but also the psychological message of respect and consideration for the partner. When foreplay is not limited to a mere act to arouse sexual excitement, but is approached as a way to express affection, women can feel much greater satisfaction. So, what specific aspects and methods of caressing make women feel aroused? Here, we will focus on several characteristics that men who arouse women tend to possess. First, men who arouse women are proactive in exploring their partner's body. Some men believe that my partner needs to be sufficiently aroused for me to feel greater arousal. They believe that as women become more aroused, they also feel that energy and experience intense pleasure. Therefore, they constantly explore to find the areas their partner desires or to discover more sensitive spots. On the other hand, some men are more aroused by the affection they receive. Of course, men also respond sensitively to and enjoy the caresses given by women. However, the key difference lies in the level of intention and effort put into satisfying the partner through caresses. There is a clear difference between a man who thinks, I just need to receive, and one who constantly tries to figure out how to make his partner feel better. On average, men and women desire about 18 minutes of affectionate touch. Of course, there can be individual differences, and it can be longer or shorter. But what's important is the effort to focus on exploring each other's bodies and observing each other's reactions during that time. Men who are good at satisfying women through affectionate touch make an effort to understand what sensations their partner is sensitive to and what they enjoy. For example, they carefully observe whether she enjoys having her back gently stroked, her thighs softly touched, or her neck or ears gently stimulated. This exploration isn't just about using your hands. You can also use other parts of your body, such as your mouth, tongue, or chest, to provide various types of stimulation. For example, you might start with light, gentle touches all over the body, and then focus more intensely on areas where the woman shows particularly sensitive reactions. Observe how she responds to different speeds, intensities, and styles of touch, and gradually refine your caressing skills. Second, men who are skilled at arousing women always prioritize the woman's standards. In fact, every woman has her own unique preferences. Some prefer gentle, slow touches, while others enjoy more bold and intense stimulation. From a man's perspective, he may have his own familiar methods or skills that have worked in the past, but these may not work at all for his current partner. If a man insists, what I've always done is the best, the woman may think, why is he doing this even though I don't like it or find it unappealing? Which can completely dampen her excitement. At this point, there is even a risk of emotional distance forming, let alone foreplay. Since everyone has different levels of physical sensitivity and preferred rhythms, if you truly want to satisfy your partner, it is important to ask directly, such as, where should I touch you the most? Or how does this feel? Or actively observe subtle reactions. In fact, you can often pick up on these cues without words, through a woman's facial expressions, tone of voice, or body movements. For example, her breathing may suddenly become heavier, you may feel tension in her hands or legs, or her gaze may change. Men who can quickly catch these changes and realize, she likes this part, this rhythm is right, are considered to have excellent foreplay skills. This attitude of aligning with women's standards ultimately leads women to deep arousal. Third, no matter how good the stimulation is, Repeating the same method over and over will eventually become dull. Human senses are incredibly sensitive yet adapt quickly to consistent stimuli. Therefore, men who excel at foreplay don't insist on the same stimulation, but instead seek to introduce variety through different methods. For example, they might switch from touching with their hands to using their lips, or gently touch with their tongue before adjusting the intensity while varying their breathing or pace. The key here is not to change direction too abruptly, but to consider the woman's current state. For example, if she is gradually building up excitement, it's better to slowly adjust the pace or slightly vary the rhythm rather than suddenly increasing the intensity, so she doesn't feel overwhelmed. Conversely, if she is already sufficiently aroused, you can provide more active and intense stimulation. Ultimately, all of this depends on how sensitively you can read her reactions. Such variations are not just verbal, but also involve adjusting the order or position during actual physical contact. For example, if you start with relatively safe areas like the chest or ears, you can then move on to more sensitive areas and focus your attention there. Alternatively, if you've been focusing on one area for a while, you can briefly shift your attention to another area before returning and providing stronger stimulation than before. By introducing these changes, the woman doesn't have time to get bored and gradually becomes more deeply aroused by the continuous new sensations. The key to making all of this possible is creating an environment where both partners feel safe and comfortable. If a woman is tense, even the best techniques won't be enough to maintain sufficient arousal. Similarly, if a man is tense or impatient, he may lose the rhythm. Ultimately, both partners need to be open with each other and enjoy the exploration in a gentle, natural atmosphere. After all, foreplay is not just an act for sexual arousal, but can also serve as another means of emotional connection. In this context, we can summarize that men who arouse and satisfy women typically share three characteristics. First, they actively explore various parts of a woman's body and strive to identify the areas she enjoys. Second, they do not stubbornly insist on their own way, but always adapt to the woman's preferences. Third, they continuously heighten excitement through new attempts and variations. If you keep these 3 points in mind and put them into practice, the likelihood of both partners enjoying a satisfying and passionate time together increases significantly. The fact that foreplay is not just a short process to go through for the sake of a relationship, but can sometimes be just as important as the relationship itself, is something many couples have experienced. In particular, some women find it easier to achieve orgasm through foreplay than through intercourse, and it can also feel more intense. In fact, a woman's body has numerous sensory points scattered throughout, so penetration alone is often insufficient. This is why foreplay and caressing are considered so important. Ultimately, when a woman feels emotionally safe and that her body and mind are fully respected, she can achieve greater excitement and pleasure. When foreplay is well matched, it can send a message not only physically but also psychologically, such as, "This person is considerate of me and genuinely wants to make me happy." This is the most reliable path to a satisfying sexual experience. Finally, let's delve a bit deeper into this topic. What men and women can convey to each other through foreplay is not merely sexual arousal. It can also lead to deeper emotional connection, bonding, and, in the long run, stability in the relationship. For example, even couples who frequently argue can often report feeling emotionally closer when they spend more time communicating through touch. Especially for women, it's said that they need to feel emotionally comfortable before they can open up physically. This means that foreplay itself can be a very important channel for exchanging emotions, rather than something that only has meaning within the context of intercourse. For some people, the touch and physical intimacy exchanged during this foreplay stage can be an incredibly precious experience, and the excitement and tension built up during this process can lead to an even more explosive sense of satisfaction when it culminates in orgasm. On the other hand, if a man thinks, "Isn't the main act the only thing that matters?" and rush through it, women are likely to feel that they are not being cared for or that their partner is not interested in them. Over time, this sense of disappointment can lead to a decrease in overall relationship satisfaction and a decline in trust toward the partner. Ultimately, to create meaningful experiences for each other, it is essential to invest significant time and effort into delicate foreplay. Of course, this doesn't mean everyone should act the same way, but the effort to sincerely consider and try different ways to make the other person happy is the key to improving the quality of a relationship. That's all for today's story. Thank you to everyone who watched until the end. We at Dating After 40 will continue to share women's honest feelings and delicate emotions in greater depth. Please show your support with a subscription and a like. Thank you.